Welcome, everybody, to our RLCS Week 7 predictions. I think technically, if you want to peel back the curtain, I think technically we call this Week 6. But I think for simplicity's sake, I'm not sure what I'm going to title this yet. I'll figure that out. But I think that was actually Week 5.5, or a doubleheader week, and then we're into Week 7. But we're going to go over quickly the predictions for Week 7 in terms of Liquipedia, I guess. Week 7 for the RLCS, for NA and EU. We're not going to recap as much. Obviously, it was a strange week, not only in Rocket League, but in the world. But we saw some games on Monday, so we talked to Wave and Leaf about the predictions on Monday. And we're just not going to recap as much. We'll probably recap a little bit in our predictions here. One quick note, throw some subs to the YouTube. We're going to try and hit 100K by the end of the year. The problem is I am very bad about selling out and asking for subs every video, and I always forget. And I think that's like the golden ticket. Sure, my content's probably not the greatest in the world, but I think the other golden ticket is selling out. So we're going to try a little bit harder. So if you want, if you like the content and you're probably going to be bored being inside a lot, throw a sub to the YouTube, and we'll try and hit 100K, and I will do something dumb when we hit 100K. Not too dumb, but somewhat dumb. And if you have any ideas or something to do at 100K, throw them in the comments below. But let's get into the picks. Let's get over it. Cloud9 Sonics. Cloud9 obviously shocked the world, beating Energy 3-0. Maybe you could say like Energy's lost some motivation because obviously there's no world championship. They just won the world championship. Maybe it's partially that. But Cloud9 looked pretty good doing it too. Squish and Gimmick, especially, both looked fantastic. Torment didn't have a lot of those defensive mistakes anymore. He was a solid rock for them, and that's really all you need for Cloud9. If Gimmick and Squishy are popping off and Torment is not making those mistakes, you'll win. You'll win a lot of your series. Now you're playing Sonics, who are a solid team. They beat eUnited. They beat Pittsburgh Knights this past week. Pittsburgh Knights was really, really close. Could have went either way. Obviously it goes to game 5 overtime. Obviously Shock scores it. This has kind of been the story for Sonics all season. If you think about it, when they played Ghost, game 5 overtime. They beat Rogue kind of handily. They even beat SpaceStation kind of handily, which was probably their one big, statement series. But they even lost to Energy in 5. So it was close the other way, too, for losses. Pittsburgh Knights, though, is kind of in a similar boat where, their game differential is not terrible. The problem is obviously, for that case, they lost to Rogue and stuff like that. I don't know why I'm talking about Pittsburgh Knights here. But for Sonics, this one reads to me like it could be an upset. If I had to choose anyone that is not a close match of two top 6 playing, or so one of the few that are bottom 4 versus top 6, or I'm sorry, bottom 5 now versus top 5, this would be the one I would pick for an upset. I'm not going to do it because I don't think it's actually that bad. I have to go over here. This is Nalan's site. I will link it in the description below, but we're going to put them in on here so we can look at the leaderboard at the end of the day. I'm going to give this to Sonics in, why not a 3-2? I think Cloud9 might show up. I think Sonics will clutch it out. Why not? Pretty simple there. Next up, we got SpaceStation versus Rogue. Rogue got the huge win, and I mean absolutely huge win versus Pittsburgh Knights. It kind of looked like they fixed a lot of their issues, but it did seem like Pittsburgh Knights were struggling pretty hard. Rlcs was playing incredibly well, but no one else was on that team. So I think Rogue's win, while they should be happy about it, Rogue fans should be a little bit cautious because, again, when we look at the standings here real quick, let's just take another look. For game differential purposes, right now, Pittsburgh Knights has a huge lead over any of these bottom 5 teams. That includes Cloud9, because the only way Cloud9 ties Pittsburgh Knights is if they lose again. And the average loss is a 3-1, right? So they would be at -5. So right now, Pittsburgh Knights has the game differential tie breaks. On the other side, Rogue, well, they don't. They have a terrible game differential. They're tied with Flight for the worst if you're talking about an average win or loss is a 3-1 when it comes down to it. So Rogue really needs these wins now they're not going to get it against SpaceStation. SpaceStation has a very easy schedule to round out the season. They only have to play G2 left that I think could be a losable game. I think they probably walk away with the number 1 seed. SpaceStation has been looking solid. AXB is putting on an MVP-like performance. Sypical, what a performance from him last week versus Flight. Every single pass was coming from him. He was creating all the offense. He's in that running too. But obviously, neither of them are going to win because Shock's going to win that. But we're going to go 3-0. SpaceStation, best defense. They're going to easily win that series. Next up, Sonics versus Flight. Flight got their first win over the weekend. They beat eUnited. I am very, very low on eUnited, so it's not an impressive win to me for Flight. Even when I was talking to James about upset picks on our podcast, like Flight was my first upset pick versus eUnited. Or actually my second. I had Cloud9 over NG first, and then that one, or the opposite. It was one of the two. But Flight, they showed up. Memory showed up, but then again, they played SpaceStation, and they did have one game where they put up some goals, but that's it. Flight's offense is just not good enough, and they are like, I don't expect them to beat Sonics, but again, I'm not like super gun-ho about Sonics. I still think we haven't seen their bad side yet, and I think there is a bad side looming somewhere in there. But I don't think it would be bad enough probably at this point to lose the Flight anyway. So we'll give Sonics a 3-1 there over Flight. That'll knock Flight out of playoff scenarios. They basically have to 6-0 and need a lot of help. So that would knock them out. And I think that would knock them straight into the promotion tournament, actually, if they lose that game, because I don't think they could really catch many people. We'll talk about that when we get to the next thing here. Following up, Ghost versus C9. Again, it could be a very tight series for Cloud9. Ghost looked good against G2. I think Ghost is a much better team than their 3-3 record showed. They're 4-3 now, but still, they are one of these top teams. Absolutely. Ghost, they should have beat Sonics when they played them, so that would have bumped them up right in the conversation here. I think Ghost is a super solid team. I don't think Cloud9 takes this victory. So even if Cloud9 is really playing well, I think Ghost could still beat them if they're playing well too. So we'll go Ghost. We'll go 3-1 because it feels like Cloud9, they show up for one game like every series. Let's go back. We got eUnited versus Pittsburgh Knights. Again, I am really down on eUnited. Pittsburgh Knights didn't look good, but I think Pittsburgh Knights takes this win. This is a huge game for playoff implications. This could technically clinch Pittsburgh Knights into the playoffs if Cloud9 loses really, really poorly to Sonics and Ghost. So we're going to throw in a 3-0 here. I'm not sure if it will be a 3-0. I'm just not sold on eUnited whatsoever. And we'll go back to that when we get to the standings. Energy versus G2. So these are the series that I more thought G2 would lose. Energy and SpaceStation. I had a feeling they could lose to Ghost, but to me that was still an upset pick. I think the favorites here would have been Energy and SpaceStation when G2 played them. Energy did just lose as well, though. G2 lost to Ghost. So both teams looking to bounce back up into that top 2 race. I think Energy takes this. I think Energy, it's a bigger wake-up call for them because it does seem like they're very lax compared to G2. I think they just got beat. Or more so got beat, I guess, because Cloud9 played well too. But we'll go 3-2 because we want to see a good series, and I'll go Energy over G2. So this will lead us with 1 week to play, and we'll have the Sonics at 7-1. We'll have Energy at 6-2, SpaceStation's at 6-1, G2 5-2, Ghost 5-3, Pittsburgh Knights 3-5. So it doesn't clinch them just yet. Based on my predictions here, it doesn't clinch them just yet because they need a +6 game differential over Cloud9 at the time. Well, actually +7 game differential. So they would need Cloud9 to lose like 3-0 here, and then that 3-1 would be fine because Pittsburgh Knights and Cloud9, they play each other in the final week. So because Cloud9 could always sweep them. So that's the way Pittsburgh Knights would not clinch yet. Everyone else would be eliminated from playoffs at this point. eUnited could not catch them because, again, they only have 1 game left. So they would need, again, +6 game differential. But that's not the case there. Or be within 6 game differential. So Cloud9 would be the only one left to have a shot For Flight, Rogue, and eUnited, those spots could all flip based on my standings here. We're not going to talk about direct playoff scenarios until the final week, just because it's a little bit easier. I will tell you when people clinch or whatnot throughout the day, and I'll try my best to do it. Problem is there's a lot of games and a lot of teams. Flight would obviously go into that final week. They play Rogue. So all they would have to do is beat Rogue at this point, and they would move ahead of them. So that would give... eUnited would actually be clinched into the promotion tournament based on this as well. So eUnited would be in a safe spot. It would come down to Rogue versus Flight. Whoever wins at this point based on these game differentials, and obviously these are based on my scenarios, so don't think these are exact, would be that final spot. On the top half, though, it's anyone's game still, because most of these teams still have 2 games to play. Or not most of them, but some of them have 2 games to play. SpaceStation and G2. So SpaceStation could move up, obviously, past Sonics. If Sonics lose to G2, G2 could leapfrog them, because we're very likely going to have 3 2-win teams. Or not maybe very likely, but it's a good chance. Where we have 3 2-win teams. So Sonics, even if they finish at 7-2, it's not going to matter too much. It's not a guaranteed top 2 spot. Their game differential, based on what I have here, is pretty good, though. So that is a good sign for them. But they have to lose 1, so that would bring that down to 9. While teams like G2 and Energy, they would have to win 2 to bring that back up, or Energy would have to win 1, so they'd be at 8. So obviously that's very close, means that could still change. G2 would have to win 2, so that would move up, to an average of a 12, so they would move ahead of the Sonics, so stuff like that. So they're not really clinched in there yet. Ghost, I think, technically could find a spot. I think at this point they couldn't, because G2 and Sonics play, but I'm not sure. Ghost is one of those teams that's probably locked in. They could probably sneak into 4th, because one of these teams will drop out based on wins and losses to one another. So they could sneak into 4th, but Ghost Gaming, I think, realistically is a 5th place finish with a very small possibility of 4th. And obviously, if everything goes their way, they still have a chance at top 2. But that's how it looks in NA based on my predictions here. Let's move over to Europe. And I'm going to bring this up just to have ready, and then we will also go over to Europe here. It's not supposed to be as long, but they always are longer. So I'm going to try and go a little bit quicker. But we got Dignitas versus Endpoint. Endpoint's offense showed up immensely versus TSM. They scored 10 goals in 3 games. So 4 goals and 5 goals towards the end. That's a very good sign for them, but they're playing Dignitas. They're going to lose. Pretty simple. Dig barely lost to Vitality, but I actually liked what I saw from Dig in that series. Their offense was a lot better. Oh, boy. We're screwing things up here. There we go. Their offense actually looked better in those first 2 games, 3 goals and 2 goals, compared to what their offense has shown all season. Everyone keeps talking about their passing plays and how good they are, and they are great, but they don't score that many goals in general. If you look here, when they played Barça, a lot of 1-goal games. Even against Mouse, it hasn't been that good. It's kind of the same thing here, but they get a little bit more offense going. So I do like that from Dig. I still think Vitality will be the best team, just because their offense, they are scoring goals, while no one else is in Europe. But Dig will win that pretty handily, and I think they'll still be a top 2 team. Then we got Rec versus TSM. I've talked about TSM a lot. I'm not going to harp on this too much. I like what Shawcett's doing lately. He's getting a lot more time with the ball, which is great. Outside of Monaco playing incredible defense, he would have scored a ton last week. So I think Rec is finding that form to give Shawcett time again, which I like personally, because you want to give your best player as much time with the ball as possible, and Rec is starting to do that. Next up, the big one, Team Singularity versus Endpoint. This matters so much for an RLCS Season 10 spot. For that 7th place finish, could also mean possibilities to sneak into the regional championship. I think Endpoint's a better team. Lately, I haven't liked Team Singularity all that much. They did almost take down Barça back in week 6. I don't even remember that match because it was the very first one of the day, of the long day. I barely remember it, so I'll have to go back and look at it a little bit. But I didn't like them versus TSM. It was very low scoring. It was better versus Barça from my cloudy memory, but I don't know. I think they're double commits and they're like a very aggressive play style where they just leave the net wide open is worse than Endpoint. Like I know Endpoint is a pretty aggressive team, but they don't leave as many openings in my opinion. So I'm going to give this to Endpoint. I think it'll be close because why not? Because that's what we want from the good series. So Endpoint will win that. Clinch the 7th seed, I believe. I'll have to check because a 3-2 might not clinch it for him. But I'll check that at the end here. You got Dignitas, Veloce. Veloce finally lost to Mouse. Couldn't really get anything going there versus Mouse. A 3-0 sweep. That one hurts. Because I think probably Veloce people were like, hey, why is everyone just only talking about taking Vitality for top 2? I believe there still is a reason for that. Dig and Vitality are really, really good. While Veloce, I think, is a good team, but I don't think they're a great team. They also haven't played Dig or Vitality yet. That's also why they're 5-2, or that's why they looked 5-1 at the time. So I'm going to give this one a 3-1 for Dig, and Veloce will start slowly falling back down into that 4-ish range, maybe third. But Dig and Vitality are both really good. Barça versus ASM, I don't even have to talk about this. Barça has been looking great for the most part. Well, I'm sorry. I shouldn't say that. Monaco has been looking bad. Barça, I'm actually incredibly worried about because I don't think they have been looking good in the past few weeks at all. So I am very, very worried about them. They are getting out-controlled by every single team they play now, and that is a bad sign going towards the playoffs. Seems like they lost something where they're just not gaining possession anymore. It's been like even against Team Singularity. Like I don't have the shot totals right now, but I think they were being like out controlled at different times in that series as well. The last time I thought they had like a good series was against Vitality, and they lost that series. I don't think they've had a great series since then. Obviously, they win the one versus Rec. That was amazing with their defense. That's not how you want to win series where you're getting outshot by 35. So I'm worried for Barça, but they will make playoffs. They're playing ASM. They play TSM soon. So they got through the heart of their schedule. So I'm not too worried about them in terms of playoffs. I'm just worried about when they get there, if they're going to do anything. Vitality versus Mouse, the big one. Scrub versus his former team. That's going to be a fun one, but Vitality's really good. And Mouse, I need to see it 2 weeks in a row. I haven't seen it yet. I think this might be a week where they do play well. I'll go 3-2 because we want to see juicy matchups. And I think Mouse, they might have turned the corner at this point. They also have a easier schedule at the end. They have Endpoint and then Barça. I think Mouse might be turning the corner now to be like a top 4 team, I think. Or at least be in that conversation. But it's Vitality. Vitality's offense has been so good, and I think there's always been some sketchy defense coming out of Mouse here or there throughout the season, outside of Scrub probably. But we'll see. Like I do like what Cooks here does on the defensive half of passing the ball out. He's doing a good job there. Their offensive passing still hasn't been fantastic, but they are starting to create different opportunities on the offensive side, which I like. But we'll see. We'll see if they do it again. I think Vitality's the better team. I think Vitality's the best team in the world. So let's go through what we got here. So we'll have Barça. Well, we have Vitality and Dig tied at 7-1. So there's still a chance that they don't make top 2. A very small chance, but there still is a chance. The only team that could catch them at this point would be Barça out of all teams. Barça could catch them. Unlikely, but they could. Our top 2 is basically going to be locked up. It also helps that Vitality and Dig both will only have 1 game left. Barça has 2 at least, so they can kind of catch up. A lot of our top teams are actually only have 1 game left, which is kind of sad. Trying to think, who has 2? Oh, Mouse Sports has 2, and Barça. So at least it's 2 of the top 6, which is nice. But I do think Vitality and Dig will have basically virtually locked up our top 2 at this point. Barça will still have an outside chance for it. Then you got Barça, Rec, Veloce, and Mouse, all relatively tight. So I think it comes down to like Mouse versus Barça is going to be a big one. Mouse's game differential based on what I have here is pretty solid. Over the rest, it's actually the best out of all of them, just because they have to catch up with a win like we talked about before. So it'd be around a +7. That's based on what happened in my predictions during this week. So if Mouse can beat Barça, that's a good sign. The problem is they have 2 games, but there are other games against Endpoint, so they're probably okay there too. So I think they would probably go 2-0. They finish with only 3 losses, they probably get one of the 3 or 4 spots. Well, Barça also finished with 3 losses. Rec, who does Rec play? Rec plays, I think, someone bad. Let me see. Never mind. They play Dignitas, so it's a likely loss. The good thing for Rec is Dignitas might have things locked up at that point. The last week's schedule is normally different based on playoff scenarios, so I always work with Psyonix to try and make it as fair and as hype as possible. So don't mind how the schedule looks right now. So Rec could lose that or should lose that. Veloce should lose their game too. They're playing Vitaly, so they'll be at 4 losses. So Barça, probably a top 4 team. It'll probably be Mouse and Barça, in my opinion. Barça might not have too much to play for going into that match. I'm probably going to have to put, depending on what happens this weekend, I'm going to probably have to put the Barça Mouse Sports game pretty early. The problem is they also play TSM that week, so I can only put it so early. Yeah, so those teams are looking like it. Veloce and Rec obviously have a chance, but those top 2 look pretty locked up. On the bottom side, you got Endpoint locking in number 7, just about. It's not completely locked up, -5 game differential or a 5 game differential difference. So if Team Singularity wins 3-0, Endpoint loses 3-0, then they would not gain that spot. So basically, Endpoint, depending on how badly they beat Singularity, and obviously this could flip for Singularity's favor. It's the same kind of scenario where, depending on that series, if one team sweeps the other, they might lock in number 7. The problem is getting to one of these top spots is going to be nearly impossible. They will finish 4 and 5 at best with a -1 game differential. That's very likely not going to cut it. Because actually, yeah, it won't cut it because it would only be Mouse, I guess. Mouse could tie them. And Mouse, well, I guess Mouse and Endpoint play next week, so it's still possible at this point. But we might be locked in after this weekend with our top 6 and our number 7, depending on how the games go. And then at the bottom, Monaco doesn't lock up 10th yet, but it depends. Like, they would have to beat Team Singularity in the final week, and they would need TSM to lose. The TSM to lose, obviously, that's not incredibly hard at this point versus Barça, but to beat Team Singularity could be tough. Team Singularity would be out of the woodwork if Monaco loses one more game for that 10th spot. And it would come down to TSM versus Monaco, who gets it. And then on the other side, again, Endpoint and Singularity are playing to play out of promotion, while on the bottom side, they're playing to play into promotion. So it's a little bit tough down there at the bottom. But that is my predictions for Europe. So thank you guys for watching. We got NA and Europe done today. Games are normal time, Saturday and Sunday. I'll be here in my basement casting the games. Well, not casting, but I'll be on the desk with Leaf. And that's it. That's all we got. Next week, I'll have concrete playoff scenarios for anything that matters. And yeah, while we're on the desk this week, just look out for me talking about playoff scenarios, because it'll be a fun time. And yeah, we'll see you there. Bye.